Spring sports are underway as Maryland men's lacrosse opened the season with a top 25 win. Maryland men's basketball is surging, women's hoops came up short against Illinois, and wrestling took on number 2 Iowa. We'll break it all down for you coming up on this edition of The Left Bench.
Their attitude has been just phenomenal.
It's been challenging to figure out what do they do best together, who should be playing with each other.
Welcome back to The Left Bench, brought to you by Terrapin Sports Central. I'm Ricky Podgorski, that's Alex Gary. Alex, it is 2025. First show of the new year. Luka Doncic is a Laker, and Maryland men's basketball is winning on the road. What is going on?
It's really a crazy time of year. A lot of things are changing, but some things just never change.
You know what never changes? Maryland men's lacrosse beating Richmond on their opening day.
Exactly 250 days after its loss in last year's national championship game, Maryland men's lacrosse returned to CQ Stadium on Saturday to open the 2025 campaign against number 18 Richmond. The number 6 Terps looked in midseason form. Binghamton transfer Matthew Keegan and Fairfield transfer Bryce Ford were everywhere in this Maryland debut. This goal by Keegan opened the scoring 7 minutes in. Keegan's first of the team-high 3 goals with the assist there from Ford. All in all, the grad transfer duo combined for 4 goals and 3 assists in the first half alone. A start dominated by Maryland and new number 1 in the cage, Logan McNaney. McNaney led the Terps defense to a 7-0 lead at halftime. Maryland's first time shutting out its opponent in the opening half in a decade. 3 more scores from Daniel Kelly helped Maryland cruise through the second half to a 5-goal win. Terps win 12-7. Here's head coach John Tillman with more.
It's been challenging to figure out what do they do best together, who should be playing with each other, and how do we set them up for success. We just didn't know a lot about Richmond except for what they did last year. We had no intel about them in scrimmages. No one said anything. There were no write-ups. There was nothing.
Maryland men's lacrosse starts the season on a high note, but games against top-ranked teams still loom in its schedule.
And to break down yet another opening day victory and what's to come for this team, we are happy to be joined by the Diamondback men's lacrosse beat writer, Jake Cotterer. Welcome, Jake. Thanks for joining us.
Of course, guys. My pleasure to come on the show.
Let's get right into things. Beat Richmond, opening day. First impressions, what do you think about this team so far?
Well, the word I would say is impressive. Okay, Richmond, this is no Maryland football beating UConn. This is an impressive win. Richmond, 3 of the last 4 games the Terps played against them were decided by 1 goal. So this game was a blowout, make no mistake. Most of these goals that Richmond got came late when the game was already decided. So it was impressive in all 3 phases. The offense looked good, even amid an abundance of new transfers this year. Looked great. Bryce Ford, Matthew Keegan, 2 transfers, had multiple goals. Offense was humming. Defense was great. Obviously, you had McNaney back there. He did his thing. Defense was tenacious with the pressure throughout. And even in the face-off game, they played extremely well in their first game without Luke Weirman.
Now, let's talk a little bit more about the face-offs. Obviously, huge hole in that team after Luke Weirman leaves for the PLL. But you have Shea Keitler, Sean Creeder, and Jonah Carrier. They go 13 for 21. Do you expect one of those guys to really stand out and be that guy on the face-off square, or do you expect it to be more of a committee?
Yeah, so it's a great question for Coach Tillman's squad, and I think probably more the latter, that will be more of a committee. So Keitler's kind of the guy who would expect the most to play. He played the whole opening period. Played very well. He converted 75% of his face-offs. He was great. He's a senior, so he has the most experience of the bunch. But Creeder, you would also expect to have a role, as he did on Saturday. He played well as well, and both of them have the big benefit of learning from Weirman last year. That's something that Tillman's emphasized throughout the preseason, now into the season, is that helped them a lot, learning from an All-American face-off guy like that.
You mentioned him earlier, Logan McNaney, wearing the honorable number 1 jersey this year. What kind of contributions do you expect McNaney to make this year in the cage?
Yeah, so McNaney, we know he's a stud. Look, he's won a national championship, took him to a national championship last year, came up just short. He's going to be an integral part of this team. We know that. What's really interesting, though, is that Tillman stressed heavily this year, actually McNaney's impact beyond just the cage, which is communication, being a leader off the field. And that's something he said McNaney's taken as a personal goal and really improved upon. So we know he's going to be huge in the cage. We'll see how he holds up. They do have Brian Ruppel if something happens to him, and Tillman did emphasize that he played very well in what was overall a poor scrimmage against Duke. He was a standout as someone who played well and made it even a bit of a competition. Now, I don't know how far that actually got. Tillman could have been exaggerating, but he said it literally took until about the last 2 weeks before McNaney was officially announced as the starter.
Now, a ranked win against Richmond, that's nice. But if you look ahead to their schedule, it doesn't get any easier. Loyola next week. Beyond that, Syracuse, which is a powerhouse squad. And then you get the defending champs, Notre Dame, later down in that month. What is this winning formula that Maryland needs to get to win these highly touted matchups?
Yeah, a lot of fun matchups coming up, especially that rematch with Notre Dame. That's going to be a fun one. And the truth is, we're going to find out. It's such a fresh team outside of especially McNaney. He's the one guy, you have him in goal. But outside of that, you obviously have veterans like Kelly and such. But it's a new team, so we're really going to find out. From what I've seen and just from knowing the team the past previous years, I would expect the recipe for them to win will be getting out to leads early, right? You have an aggressive offense. We saw that Saturday. I think if they can build leads with McNaney in goal, they're going to be set up pretty well.
Absolutely. Jake, that's all the time we have for you today. My friend, thank you so much for joining us.
You got it. Thanks, guys.
And you can catch all of Jake's coverage on Maryland Men's Lax on X at Jake Cotterer or online at dbknews.com.
Now, don't go anywhere because when we come back, we'll break down a prize duo in College Park, one with some big-time preseason expectations.
Plus, we'll see how Maryland wrestling fared against number 2 Iowa. Stay right there.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
There's so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
It took 20 years, and I got my 3rd child, who was 17 at the time.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
Welcome back to the Left Bench, brought to you by Terrapin Sports Central. I'm Alex Gary. That's Ricky Podgorski. And Ricky, Maryland men's basketball is scorching hot, getting a win against number 17 Wisconsin last week.
And that win pushed the Terps all the way to number 18 in the country.
Exactly. 2 road victories, students back in College Park, the Gold Rush game, Maudie Ma performing in person. All the ingredients were there for a statement game for Maryland men's basketball last Wednesday against number 17 Wisconsin. And the Terps delivered. Didn't look pretty at first, as Wisconsin could not miss from 3. The Terps couldn't match that Badgers pace. But the AP Player of the Week, Juju Reese, helps claw Maryland back. Terps up 1 at the half. In the second, teams go back and forth, 49-48, and it's Deshaun Harris-Smith from 3. And then, right after that, it's Jacoby Gillespie from 3. And then Rodney Rice from 3. And finally, Derek Queen lays it in to cap off an 11-0 run that put this one out of reach. Terps find the gold at home, 76-68. Here's head coach Kevin Willard on getting the squad's Big Ten play back on track.
Again, coming off the Washington-Oregon trip, I think we were 1-3. They could have let a lot of negativity affect them, and their attitude has been just phenomenal. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that they've been really resilient throughout the first part of this conference schedule.
A huge reason for Maryland's upset win on Wednesday was the play of Juju Reese and Derek Queen.
Terps' newest front court pairing combined for 26 points and 20 rebounds against the Badgers. But for Reese and Queen, numbers like those are becoming just another night on the court together. TSC's Ryan Martin is in Studio B with more. Ryan?
Yeah, Ricky and Alex, to say Reese and Queen have been dominant for number 18 Maryland this season may just be an understatement. Maryland men's basketball knows how important it is to get big minutes from your big men in today's game. From Purdue's Zach Edey to Iowa's Luka Garza, the Big Ten has shown how players in the front court can single-handedly change the game. It's something that both Julian Reese and Derek Queen have done this season with their size and physicality. Now, let's be real for a second. Not all of us are made of Reese's 6'9 frame or Queen's 6'10 freshman build. But number 18 Maryland sure is happy to have those two giants reuniting to lead its charge this season. Since the Terps' season kicked off in November, Reese and Queen have electrified College Park by actually sharing the court again. The two Baltimore natives played together in high school when Queen was a freshman and Reese a senior at St. Francis Academy. Fast forward 3 years, and Reese was integral in getting the 5-star Queen to stay home, a decision that's made Queen one of the best freshmen in the country. DQ is averaging a team-high 15 points with 8 rebounds and a pair of assists per game, and his quick transition to the college game has taken some attention off of Reese. The senior's up to 14 points, 9 rebounds, and a block and a half per game. Now, Julian Reese is Maryland's longest tenured player, and he's certainly put up impressive numbers before with a good running mate in the front court. But there's just something different this year with Queen. And this one right here might be my favorite stat of all to show why. When Reese and Queen are both clicking offensively and each scoring double figures during the same game, Maryland is 11-0 this season. That includes conference wins over Ohio State, Illinois, and as Alex and Ricky just talked about, Wednesday versus Wisconsin. So you wonder, how does that compare to previous pairings with this man right here, Julian Reese? Let's think back to last season with Reese and Dante Scott, Mr. 24, a 3-year starter for Maryland. That duo gave opponents headaches defensively, but even so, Maryland's records last season dropped to just 8-7 when Reese and Scott were both in double figures. That's a credit to how Reese and Queen can space the floor differently in this year. But for more, here's Reese and Maryland head coach Kevin Willard on how the big men duo have gelled into Big Ten play.
I feel like that just comes with like playing in the season. I feel like we've grown, learn how to play with each other even better.
Going up against your own size and figuring out that size really helps, and I think that's something, in the Big Ten. I mean, you look at how big that team is out there. You can throw your body around, you can bang a little bit, and they've also figured each other out.
And guys, it's clear to see how Reese and Queen have figured it out, as Willard just said, has led to a better overall record for Maryland this year. The Terps have already surpassed last season's win total in 9 fewer games played. Expect Maryland to keep featuring Reese and Queen as the Big Ten tournament and a likely top 10 seed in the NCAA tournament loom closer. Guys?
Yeah, thank you, Ryan. And one thing that really used to look at from the front court from this year to last year is last year they really didn't have that offensive scoring from the outside. You look at now Rodney Rice, Jacoby Gillespie, you look at Selton Miguel. They can really score from the outside and really open up the interior for the big guys.
And DQ and Juju are just feasting on the inside. We've never seen a player like Derek Queen in college, and Juju is just stepping up, finally taking that step that everyone thought he was going to take from his freshman, sophomore, junior year. He's becoming a player in his own, and Derek Queen is just a unicorn. Ryan highlighted it there. There's something special. But we'll stick to the hardwood because Maryland women's basketball has now fallen to number 16 in the latest AP poll after Sunday's loss to Illinois. But this defeat came in heartbreaking fashion. Maryland was aggressive on the defensive end in the first half, but Illinois keeps knocking down threes, hitting 4 triples in the first half. Terps are up 2 at the half and then jump out to a 9-point lead early in the third quarter. But Illinois responds and we are all tied up at 50 heading into the final quarter. Illinois takes a 4-point lead, but Sellers knocks down the jumper. Then, Sarah Tibiasu puts the Terps in front with the go-ahead 3 of her own halfway through the fourth. Illini reclaim the lead, and Maryland now has a chance. They draw up a nice inbound play to get Sellers open, but she's just off the mark, and the Terps fall in a heartbreaker 66-65. Here's Brenda Fries with more on the strength of the Big Ten.
We've just got to, continue to keep working. This is how good every single team is in league play. It's a hard month for everyone within the conference, and starts with us now with a 6-day road trip to the West Coast, and just learning these valuable lessons that will prepare us and help us for March.
A sold-out Xfinity Center Pavilion for number 25 Maryland Wrestling hosting number 2 Iowa, and the number 2 team in the country got the best of the Terps. Iowa with an early lead, but Braxton Brown kicked things off for the Terps at 133 with a pin against Cale Peterson. The Hawkeyes would retake the lead, but Ethan Miller defeats Miguel Estrada 4-2 at 150 setting heading into the break. But then it was all Hawkeyes, running the table led by Michael Caliendo and Patrick Kennedy. Iowa takes down Maryland 34-9.
Maryland gymnastics traveled to Piscataway to compete in the Rutgers Quad. The Terps are able to pick up their first Big Ten dub of the season. Let's skip to the floor where the Terps had their best showing of the season. Alexa Rothenbucher and Natalie Martin both scoring a high of 9.825. Terps won the event and set a new season high record with a team score of 49.250. Terps topple Rutgers, Fisk, and Utica with an overall score of 194.625.
Maryland tennis fell short on the weekend in a close match with Notre Dame. The Terps opened up 2-0 after winning the number 2 and 3 doubles matches, and with Callista Liu winning the number 1 singles match. The Irish and Terps went back and forth, trading singles and doubles wins, but Notre Dame broke the stalemate, clinching a 4-3 win with the number 2 singles match win. Now stay right there, because when we come back, I'll sit down with Maryland men's basketball's Rodney Rice to talk about the team's hot streak and his impact on the squad.
We'll crown our Pro Terp, Terp of the Week, and Top 5 plays. Don't go anywhere.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
There's so many rewards in life. You coming into our home was one of the greatest rewards we could have ever had.
You know, it took 20 years, and I got my third child, who was 17 at the time.
It's so cool to watch the adult that you've become, and you really have done as much for us as you think we've done for you.
Welcome back to the Left Bench, brought to you by Terrapin Sports Central. I'm Alex Gary, that's Ricky Podgorski, and Ricky, we've seen some really impressive seasons thus far from some of our winter sports.
That's right, Alex, but their seasons are still far from over, so let's play a little game that we like to call Floor and Ceiling to see what we think these teams are destined to do when their seasons end. But here's how we're going to play it. Alex and I are going to chat through some of the active Maryland sports and talk about their floors and ceilings. And by floor, we mean the lowest point the program can go. And by ceiling, we mean the highest point the program can go. We don't know what each other's predictions are going to be. Alex, why don't you get us going on Maryland men's hoops?
All right, starting on the men's side, I'm going to do the ceiling right now. And I say the ceiling, why not a Final Four appearance? I mean, they have the structure to do it. If you look at the old saying, defense wins championships, and Maryland is one of the best defensive units in all of college basketball. In all of their losses that they have, they've played every team close. Now I know there are definitely some teams that are have better wins, a better structure, but why not Maryland to go on a magical run, get some shots going their way? And I don't want to make this comparison, but DJ Burns and Derek Queen, I see a lot of comparisons there.
I mean, he was a March Madness legend last year, but we'll see if DQ could have the same magic in March. All right, my ceiling for men's basketball, you said Final Four. I'm just going to go one step below you with Elite Eight. I think if the cards are in Maryland men's basketball's favor, they could go to the Elite Eight. There's 9 games to go in the regular season. I think the expectation for this team is to finish at 6-3 with those games. If they go anything above that, which is very possible, to go 7-2, 8-1, 9-0 even, I think they could get very favorable seeding, and depending on the region where some of those higher seeds could be a little less battle-tested, I think it's wide open for Maryland men's basketball to make a run. We talked to Rodney, and we'll run that clip in a little bit, but he said that this team could do anything. And I really do think that he means that, and that an Elite Eight appearance is on the horizon. But I'll counteract that with my floor for Maryland men's basketball. Despite all the high hopes we send at Elite Eight, a Final Four, I think the floor for this team is a first-round exit in the NCAA tournament. I think they're that good that they'll make the tournament. And, I mean, if they're on a little bit of a downward spiral towards the end of the season, I really do think the worst that could happen is a first-round exit. I really don't see anything else. Like, the last 9 games of the season make it so that Maryland could be like a 10 seed. But, yeah, floor, first-round exit.
I'm pretty much somewhere on the same level as you, but taking it back to the Big Ten tournament, I think the floor has to be getting one of those first 4 seeds. I mean, the way they've been playing right now has been electric, and the way that the rest of the Big Ten has been playing, especially near that 3 to 4 seed line, Maryland has got to be one of those teams that are grabbing that first round bye. Then looking ahead to the tournament, I have Maryland winning 1 game, having them as a round of 32 exit. That's the floor I really have. This team has high expectations for themselves. The fans have high expectations for this team, and I think that's really where they should be at the least.
All right, well, let's switch gears here, but we'll stay on the hardwood. Let's talk a little bit about women's basketball. I'll start with the ceiling. You started with the ceiling last time.
Right.
You know, I trust Brenda Fries. I think this team is going through quite literally the ricketiest roller coaster that they possibly could right now. With all the injuries, losing Bree McDaniel was a huge loss. But I trust Brenda Fries. I think she's one of the greatest coaches in Maryland history of all sports. And I think it's a great opportunity with the end of season stretch here. They don't play any ranked opponents until Ohio State, if the seeds hold that way, in the regular season. But I think they could take the time to collect themselves, reconvene, and actually get healthy. And I don't know. I think the ceiling for this team is a Sweet 16 run if they get hot towards the end of the season and figure out all this injury mess.
I'm going to stay very optimistic, and I say this is a Final Four team in my opinion. I know every single year Brenda Fries puts together an incredibly difficult schedule to battle test her teams, and that's not a bad thing. Obviously, they have been battle tested. They have lost some bad games. They've lost some good games as well, but they've also won some good games, and that's what's really important when it comes down to March. When you've been in these games, when you've been in these battles against a team like USC, against a team like UCLA, where you know those are the teams that are going to be there. When you've been in those positions, you've seen them before, you'll see them again. I think that this team, when they get healthy and all things come together, you can't count against Brenda Fries. And I think at the highest, they can reach that Final Four mark. And I think you go down to the lowest, I had them as being a first-round exit, similar to what they were last season. They match up against a good team, someone like Iowa State from last year. I see their flaws have definitely been there. The injuries have gotten to them. Bree McDaniel's injury definitely did not help this team. Cheyenne Sellers is still dealing with some injuries as well. So I think at the lowest, this can be a first-round exit team.
I said bubble, and I think like a bubble tournament team, I mean like just barely getting in or just barely getting out. Like you said, the injuries are plaguing this team. We're talking floor at the very worst for this program, so I think if they spiral out of control and these injuries really affect them, I would say a bubble tournament team, but not too far off there on men's and women's hoops. But
I'm sensing a little trend. I'm a little more optimistic.
Yeah, I'm not as on everything. All right, let's go to wrestling though. We'll start with the floor for wrestling. I think Maryland wrestling is almost like a pull thread on a sweater. All right, they're sticking out a little bit, but it could take just a couple matches to unravel that sweater. And in my opinion, the floor for Maryland wrestling could be losing some more Big Ten matches. The trend for Maryland men's wrestling is competing in the Big Ten. They haven't always been the best competitive team in the Big Ten Conference. They started this year super hot in the Big Ten, lost a big match, to Iowa this past weekend. And I just don't want to see this as a pull thread in the sweater unravel for wrestling. So my floor is just continuing to lose out in the Big Ten, and they would just unravel from there.
I have a pretty similar floor. I think in the end, they might be able to send some guys to Philly for the NCAA tournament, but it's really difficult. You're competing in one of the best conferences in wrestling, Penn State, Iowa, as we saw this weekend. They are really good teams. If you give them any opportunity to win, they will take it. And I just think competing in this conference isn't really, it's not giving them what they want. They're going to be in these tough matches. They're going to pick up some more losses. And kind of with the sweater analogy, it might be a little bit of a pull thread. But I said at their highest, they can really make some noise. I said the ceiling is that they'll kind of finish somewhere in the upper half of the Big Ten. I don't think they're going to get past the likes of an Iowa and a Penn State, but they can definitely compete for that 3-4 spot and really try and make some noise in the Big Ten tournament, and then really send some more guys to Philly in the NCAA tournament.
I agree with you for the ceiling that they could be that high in the rankings. But my ceiling is a little more simple. It's just winning those Big Ten matches. You know, winning Big Ten matches, winning conference matches. We'll get better recruits and we'll continue to build this program that Alex Clemson's been working on for so long. You have these guys, Ethan Miller, Jackson Smith, Braxton Brown, have all been performing extremely well in the Big Ten. You just need to keep that up, and my ceiling for them is just to keep winning these Big Ten matches, and it'll translate for them. But let's go to gymnastics now. Why don't you start us off? Floor, ceiling, flip a coin there.
I will go with the ceiling. I see wrestling and gymnastics as very similar builds. You know, you look at the conference, again, in gymnastics, one of the best conferences in gymnastics. You look at UCLA, Jordan Childs, Michigan State, at the upper echelon of gymnastics. And when you look at them, I see Maryland as being able to compete with these teams. You saw against UCLA, they were able to compete with them, but they're not able to win some of these matches. And I see them now at their ceiling. They'll possibly make the NCAA tournament, but I don't see them getting past some of those other teams in the Big Ten.
I also see gymnastics similar like wrestling when it comes to their floor and ceiling, but to me, it's a much more baseline argument for the ceiling for gymnastics. I think the ceiling for gymnastics is fixing their beam. The beam has been the worst event so far. If they could get anything close to what their floor is, I think it'll be a very successful program. But honestly, it's plain and simple. My ceiling is their beam is fixed, but that's also my floor. If their beam continues to be poor, they'll struggle in Big Ten and continue to struggle. You mentioned the UCLAs, those West Coast teams, those powerhouses. How are you going to compete against them when your beam is arguably the worst in the conference?
Exactly, and you kind of mentioned the floor as well. That's really been their strong suit, but when you look at some of the other events, they really haven't been able, they've kind of been in the middle of the pack in terms of the Big Ten. They really haven't been able to separate themselves and elevate their play. So I kind of agree with your floor as well for them.
Kind of on the same page for a lot of these sports, Alex. I think we see the game in a very similar eye there.
Maybe me a little bit more optimistic for some sports, but hey, you never know. You never know.
We'll see what happens, and that's why we're predicting it.
Exactly. Well, in order for some of these Maryland sports to actually reach their ceiling, they're going to need some star play from their players throughout their roster. And for Maryland men's basketball, a new face of the program is already stepping up.
I had the chance to sit down with the transfer guard, Rodney Rice, and talk about his immediate impact on the team. From his move from Virginia Tech to his high three-point shooting clip, we talked about it all. Have a listen. All right, we're here with Rodney Rice, Maryland guard. Going to talk a little bit about his play so far this season, what the team's been up to, and an outlook on the rest of the season. But let's start right now with the win streak. You guys have won 6 of your last 7, 4 straight Big Ten wins. You're currently near the top of the conference. What's it been like on this streak, and what's been working on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, well, we just try to not get too low or too high. Coach talked to us about like protecting our energy, not getting too high, just staying level, and don't get satisfied with what we're doing right now. We just been in the gym working. We had a bye week this past week. Got Ohio State in a couple days, so today was the first day of practice in like 2 days. So yeah, we're getting ready for that.
And coming off this first week of practice is now a number 18 in front of Maryland for men's basketball. I'm sure you and the guys saw. What was the reaction to seeing the ranking for the AP poll, and what does that feel like? Does it mean anything for you guys? Is it motivation? What was that like?
I mean, it's definitely motivation. We know like we should have been there, but yeah, it's definitely motivating. We're just trying to continue our great play and keep winning games as much as we can.
We'll stick with the team for a little bit more. I want to compare the starting lineups from last year to this year. You got yourself, Jacoby, Selton Miguel, DQ, Julian Reese. What's been the major difference between last year and this year? I know you weren't part of the team last year, but from watching, what's been the difference to see the success that this crew has been having this season?
Really all 5 guys can put the ball in the basket whenever. We're versatile. Like I said, 5 guys that can score in different ways. We got 2 elite big men. Then we have elite guards that can shoot threes, score from all 3 levels. So yeah, that's really helped us a lot.
one of those elite big men, Derek Queen. What's it like playing with the freshmen? Is it fun? Are you happy that you get to play with them instead of against them?
Yeah, I'm happy to play with Derek. He uses his body well. He moves like a guard, like he can dribble like a guard. Yeah, he's a great player.
I want to talk a little bit about yourself now. Started your career at Virginia Tech. Freshman year, only played 8 games, a little banged up. Sophomore year, banged up again, missed the whole season, you redshirted. But now you're over here at Maryland, cracked into the rotation, cracked into the starting lineup, and now you have this key contribution to this team. What's this comeback been like, and how does it feel to wear your home state on your chest?
Yeah, well, it's a blessing to have Maryland across my chest. I want to thank Coach Willer and the coaching staff for giving me a chance to even play at this level again and taking a chance on me. But yeah, I'm glad of where I'm at. I'm super grateful.
And part of that success has been from behind the three-point line. In your last 2 games, you shot 8 of 13 from 3. That's nearly 62% from three-point range. What's been working for you from deep?
Just shooting it, man, not thinking too much, just letting it go, really. Yeah, just playing my game, finding spots where I can catch and shoot, off the dribble sometimes. But yeah, just playing free without thinking, really, that's it.
We got to go back to Indiana. Coming off a big win against Illinois, and then the ball's in your hands, final shot, and you knock it down, off balance 3. Walk me through the emotions of hitting that shot, like the hours to follow. What was that like at Assembly Hall?
Yeah, man, it was a great moment in my career for sure. But like right after I hit this shot, like I wasn't even worried about this shot. Like we had to get back on defense. It was 5 seconds left, but they had called a timeout. We ended up getting a stop, and man, like I ran back to the locker room after my post-game interview, whatever. And yeah, it was exciting in the locker room, a bunch of excitement. Guys were pumped. It was just a great feeling. Then after the game, like, you still think about the game, but at the same time, it's like we got another game in a couple of days. So, yeah, so it happened so fast, yeah.
Where does that rank on all-time Rodney Rice plays in your basketball career?
Probably number 1 for sure.
Yeah, number 1?
Yeah, number 1 for sure.
All right, well, you guys have a big test on Thursday. Ohio State, when they played here, it was a ball game that no one expected. It was a blowout, but Ohio State is heating up. They're playing really well, playing some good opponents, really tough. What do you guys have to do the same and do differently to win on the road at Ohio State?
The same, just try to come out ready, come out aggressive, physical, just play our style of ball, really. Differently, since we weren't home, we're not going to be home this time. Probably just stay poised when things aren't going well, or yeah, just stay calm through the bad moments, so we can stay with it and get a win eventually.
Ohio State's the next step, but now with this ranking attached to your guys' name, that comes postseason expectations, Big Ten expectations, NCAA expectations. What's your expectation personally and for this team come the postseason?
The sky's the limit with this team, man. We have a lot of talent, a lot of guys that can do different stuff. We have each other's back. As long as we play hard, stay confident, and just stay ready, we can do whatever we want.
How far is that for you guys?
That tournament, we gonna make a run. We're gonna try to make a run, yep.
Aside from Maryland basketball, there's one of the biggest stories in the world right now is on the NBA. What's your thoughts on the Luka Doncic trade?
I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. I don't know, man.
Is he gonna work out for the Mavs? Is he gonna work out for the Lakers?
I think it's gonna work out for both of them. But yeah, I was just confused because Maverick just went to the finals. It's like you just traded that piece that got you there. So I don't know. Maybe they got something else going on, you know.
I don't think anyone really knows.
I'm confused, yeah.
Well, Rodney, that's all the questions I have for you. Thanks so much for sitting down and taking the time.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
You know, Alex, one thing that Rodney said that really resonated with me, I talked about it earlier, was how highly he thinks this team can go in March. But right now, what he has to do is continue to get hot, and get hot in February, because this is a very important stretch of games for Maryland men's basketball.
Exactly, and someone else who's already getting hot in February, just one game, is our Terp of the Week. So our Terp of the Week had to go to the number 1 of men's lacrosse, Logan McNaney. McNaney was a brick wall against Richmond, holding the Spiders scoreless for the entire first half. Finished with 14 saves, which moved him to 4th on Maryland's all-time save list. Congrats to the new number 1 on being named our Terp of the Week.
And our Pro Terp was a no-brainer this week. It's none other than Aaron Wiggins of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Wiggins notched 41 points on 53% shooting. He also grabbed 14 rebounds and recorded a plus 31 plus-minus score. His 40-piece nugget was a massive help to the Thunder's 34-point win over the Kings.
All right, Ricky, top 5 times. Why don't you get us started?
We'll start things out with number 5 over at the Pavilion. It's Braxton Brown. Fighting there on the mat, gets the leg over and down for the pin, and the Pavilion goes bananas. The clip was so loud I had to cut the audio completely out, but Braxton Brown gets the foot down.
On to number 4, Sarah Tibiasu with some Sarah Tibias moves. She drops the defender, puts him on skates, and makes that bucket.
All right, I didn't know if I liked that one from you, Alex, but I like this one from Juju Reese. The technical and one there. Gets the pump fake, defender in the air, puts his body into them through the contact, gets a nice flex, and a nice shot from yours truly.
Yeah, on number 2, we'll go to the lacrosse field. Sean Creeder making his first start, not his first start, but making his first play for the Terps, and he gets a goal. Look at him. I'm seeing a little bit of signs of Luke Weirman. I don't know, maybe too early, but
I'm seeing signs of high school Alex Gary out there, but signs of neither me or Alex is our number 1 play. Rio LeBlanc, career high 985 on vault. 98.5 is what this should have gone, because this was a ridiculous play from Rio LeBlanc. Congratulations on earning our number 1 play of the week.
I mean, wow, I could never do that.
I would love to see you try and do that, but that will be all for this edition of The Left Bench, brought to you by Terrapin Sports Central. Nathan Schwartz and Jonas Evans will have you covered next week at the desk.
Be sure to keep tabs on all of our coverage on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and X.
We'll see you next time.